Turn on the AC. It's Angel Caruso.
Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about the heartwarming, beautiful movie, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. But I'm from Britain. I don't really know what Thanksgiving is like. The only thing I can compare it to is Christmas, I guess. So, I'm going to present my best buddies review. So enjoy.
What the?
Between two popcorns.
Those aren't two popcorns! Hey, what's up, guys? Bobo here from Brassreel Brothers. Welcome back to some more hot, fresh popcorn. So today I was thinking I'd just be super 80s since we're right hot fresh. In this episode, we got planes, trains, and automobiles. So this far, every John Hughes movie has been about teenagers. This is the first one that's adult driven. So this one being his 5th directed film, it's like we had these 4 films that were like our 4 years in high school, and now we graduated, and now we're on to adult stories. If you watch his movies in a row, that's how it feels. And this one, it goes back to the R rating, and it's only for language, and it's really not even that bad of language. It's just specifically one scene that Steve Martin loses it on, and we'll talk about that. This one's starring Steve Martin and John Candy, and it pretty much just focuses on them the whole movie. We saw John Candy for a smidgen in National Lampoon's Vacation.
Sorry folks, park's closed.
But he wasn't as big as he was at this point now. So in a roundabout, the movie's about Steve Martin trying to make it home for Thanksgiving. He runs into John Candy's character, Dale Griffin. God, I'll never forget that name. And it's just about them trying to get home. Flights are getting canceled, weather's coming into play. They go on this amazing journey to try to get home together. Ended up having to stay in hotels together, getting on buses. Like I said, their flights are canceled, delayed. Immediately, his and John Candy's contact starts making his trip just worse and worse and worse and worse. Starting off from John Candy stealing his cab away from him.
You stole my cab.
And he's trying to get home to Chicago. That's where his home is, which, by the way, they use the Home Alone house in this. It's literally the same house, at least the front shot. Essentially, John is just annoying the hell out of Steve Martin the whole way and making his trip worse. And he sort of becomes this leech that he can't get rid of. And you see a lot of the stereotypical characters in this. The dad from Ferris Bueller's Day Off is in this at the very beginning. Ben Stein's in it again.
I'm sorry to announce that we're canceling Flight 909 due to severe weather in Chicago.
The coolest part is it starts off with this like grandiose scene of Kevin Bacon and Steve Martin trying to fight over a cab. And it's Kevin Bacon super young while he was really getting hot. It's just a fun, cool way to start off the movie. But from that moment, Steve Martin's life just turns into hell. This movie is just a buddy movie of these two opposite personalities of them trying to make it home together or somehow or another get home. And movies like Crash have pulled from this movie because it sort of shows you that everything is connected somehow, whether you like it or not, and everything you do matters. Everything you do has some sort of an effect related to it. Ultimately, these two characters realizing that they're more alike than they realize. So while everything is going wrong for Steve Martin, everything's going right for John Candy, so it seems. Like I said, they keep getting stuck in every possible situation together. From the moment he steals his cab in the beginning, they end up seeing each other in the airport, they get stuck next to each other on the plane, they end up having to do all kinds of shenanigans, and it's great. Going to hotels that suck. Fun little side note while they're on the plane, just to show you again that John Hughes loves using the same characters. The guy from Home Alone that's with the lady in the airport talking about trading tickets with the dad. You remember when he was talking about, she's got a whole shoebox full of them, dangly ones.
She's got her own earrings, a whole shoebox full of them, dangly ones.
He's in this movie too. And what's great about John Candy's character is he's a shower ring salesman.
I never did introduce myself. Del Griffin, American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
That had to have been made up. So when they ultimately get stuck and they feel like they're at a dead end for the day, they end up sharing a hotel room together, which today's standards in today's weird, crazy world, no one would ever do that. You would never share a hotel room with a stranger. But back then, it was kind of plausible. It was still slightly an innocent world. Obviously, it's never been an innocent world, but it just wasn't as, you could trust things a little bit more. People left their doors unlocked and stuff like that. Kids played in the front yard. Man, I sound like an old man. Lots of people that just randomly you see in other movies, like when they get Doobie's Taxiola or whatever it is, that first cab that they get, that guy is the dude that does the funny laugh in Billy Madison. You know, the
Oh yeah, how's that laugh go again?
You know,
And man, when they finally get to the hotel though, it's great. And the hotel is just seedy. I remember going to hotels like that all the time when I was growing up. Totally brings you back, and everything trying to be like modern and advanced, but it still looked like shit. The whole time, Steve Martin's character is not being irrational about anything. If any of us were in that situation with John Candy, we'd be annoyed as hell. Honestly, in real life, I would have already lost it with this guy. But that's what the movie's for. It's just so hard for Steve Martin. Like, he's in the shower trying to take a shower, he gets out, it's just nasty, damp, wet water everywhere. John Candy's used all the towels, his clothes are everywhere. I love that Steve Martin's having to dry off with that little rag. And if anybody's ever had a hard, stressful day or even a stressful trip, when you have things like that that keep adding to it, oh man, the level of aggravation and anger that you stem to, you can only get that way when specific situations occur, and they really paint a good picture of that in this film. While the movie is really funny, it tricks you into thinking that you're just gonna watch this movie that's just about these two having to put up with each other. But slowly but surely, John Hughes tosses an emotional ninja star in there and gets you with something. Like when he starts telling John Candy in the hotel room, you know what? I can handle anything now because if I've been with Del Griffin, I can handle anything.
I'd say because I've been with Del Griffith, I can take anything.
John Candy snaps at him a little bit and starts talking about, you know what? I'm proud of myself because what you see is what you get. And Steve Martin kind of, all right, settles down. He learns a little something about himself, which if any audience member, when you're watching this movie, you're supposed to hate John Candy's character to begin with, because John Hughes does a good job of making you feel like a piece of shit for a little while because you're like, oh man, there's things about Del Griffin I didn't know. I feel like crap. I feel terrible. And the music in this movie is done by Ira Newborn again. It's phenomenal, and there's no other music that could have been put in these movies like this to have made it be so emotional. If it wouldn't have been so 80s feeling, it doesn't have that stuck in a time that you miss feeling, you know? So the older this movie gets, the older that music gets, to me, the more emotional the scenes get. I think it's awesome. Just like all of his movies, John Hughes does a really good job of getting you involved in a serious moment and then taking something out of that to find a little humor in it. That's what I loved about John Hughes. He was a super honest director. Everything starts going wrong. They get robbed in their hotel. Steve Martin's blaming John Candy because he thinks he robbed and stole his money, but they actually got robbed. And one of my favorite scenes.
Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
John Candy's like, oh, my friend Gus's son's gonna be picking us up.
Oh, leave it be. Get your lazy behind out here and put that trunk up in the back.
Oh, no, we've got it.
It's very heavy. She don't mind. She's short and skinny, but she's strong. Her first baby come out sideways.
She's short and skinny, but she's strong. So like I said, John Hughes is getting you involved in this movie and occasionally throws an emotional ninja star at you. But then slowly but surely, as an audience member, you start to maybe realize that Del Griffin's not so happy. He's not the carefree spirited that he paints himself out to be. And the whole reason this movie is really rated R is the scene where Steve Martin loses it at the airport and he's talking to Edie McClure, who played Grace in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She's the airline clerk in this. And man, Steve Martin, I guarantee you, says the F word more than he's ever said in any movie, or maybe his entire life, in this one scene. And it's pretty important to the scene, in my opinion, because it shows you how much this guy has been pushed over the top. Because he normally wouldn't behave like this, but now he doesn't care. And Edie McClure's one little scene is awesome in it. Of course, it wouldn't be a John Hughes film without a small bit of slapstick in there. It alleviates a little tension for the film at that point. And the true slapstick is when John Candy's driving and he's dancing all that jazz music. He almost crashes, and they drive through those two diesel trucks. They had the little skeleton scene for a second where they're both skeletons in the car, which is exactly like the scene in Home Alone 2 when Marvin's getting electrocuted with the faucet. I mean, it's hilarious. Still to this day, I'm cracking up because it's so out of place, but yet so fitting. It gets so bad that the car catches on fire and burns down, and then we get another emotional ninja star because Steve Martin's starting to see that John Candy's character doesn't really have anything. And I tell you, by the time they get to the end, you know, they go to the train station and he lets him go. Steve Martin starts to have these flashbacks. He starts to think about his family, and he starts to think about a couple of the moments he had with John Candy, or Del Griffin. And man, that music right there, every single time I watch it, I get super choked up, like really choked up. Today, rewatch it again. They did Jerry Maguire before Jerry Maguire did Jerry Maguire, with him running through the station like that. And what's so great about that moment is you figure out what the movie's about. You learn something from that movie. If you don't walk away from that movie maybe wanting to lend a helping hand to someone a little less fortunate than you, because that's what it was. We figure out that John Candy, he keeps on talking about his wife the whole movie and how he's got this great wife. His wife died 8 years ago of cancer. He doesn't have a place to live. He's got nothing. He's just trying so hard. And to see somebody do something like that with everything that's happened to him, it makes me be like, you know what? I can keep going. In fact, I can keep going and I can help. So that's what I get out of this movie, and I love that about this film. It's such a good feeling that you have by the end of this film when he's walking up to the Home Alone house with John Candy, and he's like, I'll just stay for a minute. And he's like, just come in, Del.
Look, I won't stay long or anything. Maybe I'll just come in and say hi, and then I'll be on my way, all right?
Just come on.
If more people could just be that way, and sometimes it takes going through life and learning some things about yourself, going through some bad situations, being tested to realize what you're made of, what you can do with your own two hands, what you can do to change somebody else's life. And that's what I love about this movie. So hell yeah, John Hughes, way to graduate and do something super meaningful. Not that your other ones weren't meaningful, because they're awesome. So I said Breakfast Club was my first favorite, and I said that Ferris Bueller's my second favorite, and the rest were even kind of. I take that back. Breakfast Club is my favorite. The rest of them are all even, except for Weird Science. It's my least favorite. Still love it though. And also one more thing I just have to say, why couldn't they have played the regular version of Every Time We Go? This is the third version of this song I've heard released in a public format. Originally it was written by Daryl Hall and released by Hall & Oates, but then it was made famous on pop radio by Paul Young, and now whoever's singing it in this movie is a girl, which is fine, it sounds good, but it's just like kind of disconnected for me. I love that song so much, and then you hear the girl singing. It kind of sounds like the PBS version of it or something. This movie's excellent. It's a tearjerker. It's hilarious, and you'll learn something from this movie if you watch it. So Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Some emotional, lesson-filled, lighthearted, funny popcorn. Guys, thank you so much for joining me again. We're getting closer to the end of this whole John Hughes marathon. The next one is the last one of the written directed Uncle Buck. That's another one that'll sneak up on you. And we're gonna end it off with the second John Hughes bonus film that he only wrote, not directed. And if you're paying attention somewhere into this video, there's a clue of what it is. It's actually not a clue, you just gotta look for it. It'll say exactly what it is. Once again, guys, thank you. Look for Brassreel Brothers on Facebook. Look for Brassreel Bobby on Facebook. And you can find me on Twitter, Brassreel Bobby at Brassreel. And remember, if life gives you lemons, make some fresh popcorn.
Because I'm the real article.
Turn on the AC. It's Angel Caruso.